My message today is really about, it's week 2 of what I spoke about last week, and I realized that this is a series about to happen because I can't seem to make more than one part of this be complete in a week. So this is week 2 of In the Flow of Life. It is a book. It is by one of our iconic ministers, Butterworth. You probably remember him, Tripp. I've heard him. And did you ever get to hear him before he passed? But he was a prolific writer and an amazing minister. And he wrote the book, In the Flow of Life. And the quote that I had last week was, Plotinus, who was in 270 AD, said this: if you flow as life flows, you will need no other power. That gets my attention. So we talked about that last week, and so we continue this week. We just talked about it in general, and I'll give you a little recap, and then what we're going to do is apply that this week to relationships. So everything in the universe flows. Everything in the universe is in a circular motion. It's one of the universal laws of the universe. Now we know about universal laws like gravity and mathematics and all of those universal laws that we can depend on, and they never ever change. This law is the universal flow. This is circulation. It's a law, it's a principle in our universe that every single thing circulates. And when it doesn't circulate anymore, it dies. Webster defined the word flow as moving as liquid does, to move gently and smoothly and easily, to be overflowing and plentiful. And then I looked at it again, and again I'm repeating some of these things for those of you who were not with us last week. In the field of geology, there's a different take on the word flow. And in geology, the definition of the term flow is a change in shape under pressure without breaking. Change under pressure without breaking. So when we apply these definitions to living our lives, or being in the flow of life for us, the key words are move easily through life, flow with life, and be able to change under pressure without breaking. We don't like change. Humans resist change. Change is one of the most difficult things that we encounter in our lifetime. We fight change. Change can often cause upset and grief. And we're being told, allow change. Let it happen, and don't break under the pressure of change. Most of us see change as a negative event. However, when we think about it, change is an inevitable part of our life. In our humanness, we can't get around change. It's going, whatever it is has come to pass. It's going to change sooner or later. And we do this because of this universal law. Life is always in motion. Life is an inevitable part of motion and moving past things into other things and creating lives that look different, and that difference often disturbs us. However, as we're being told by these philosophers, in order to be healthy and full of life and flow as this universe flows, we have to welcome change. Hard thing to do. We have to welcome change. We have to realize and to become grounded in the truth that Change is prevalent in the universe at all times. All of the elements are subject to change, including all of us humans. We're subject to the same changes. And knowing that, it would be wise for us to learn how to embrace it rather than to resist it and fight it. Because think about this, air has to circulate. Air is always circulating. The moment air stops circulating, we all die. We've got to have a circulation of the air. We've got to have water that circulates. What happens to the water when the water stops circulating? It turns green, it's stagnant, it's no longer able to allow the flora and fauna of the water and the fish to thrive and survive. Water has to circulate. Our blood has to circulate. What happens to us the moment our blood stops circulating? Planets are in constant circular motion, and we humans are energy, as is everything. All of us are just blobs of energy in different forms. First time someone told me that, I had a hard time with it, but I've come to realize that's what we are. We're energy, and we all take different forms. But everything on the planet is energy. The chairs, the stage, the piano, everything is energy in a different form. But the energy of every living thing is in constant movement. When the movement stops, life stops. Learning that it's a universal law, and learning that what we've been aware of so far is that that's a power in us, that ability to have that energy that is in constant circular motion and changes is a power. It's not something to resist. You know, all of these laws of the universe that we're not familiar with, we don't know how they operate or how they're governed. And so we're not sometimes friendly with them. We're not friends with them. We don't know what enhances this circular motion. We don't know what stops it in certain ways. We do know what stops it, in others we don't. But when our life works, it's because we're in that flow of that energy of life. What I'm doing this morning is I'm giving you my energy, but what you may not realize is that you're giving me your energy back. Tony can tell you, Tony worked with me for 10 months over here on Sundays or Fridays, talking to an empty room, and it was the hardest thing I ever did because I wasn't getting that energy back. There was no flow. I was talking to Tony, he was giving me energy back, but basically the room was empty. That's a circular motion of energy that we, I guess, take for granted until we don't have it. So think about yourself as that constant flow of energy, moving, fully alive. It's in all of us, it's part of us, and we don't stop to think about that. We don't stop to think about what enhances it. But we do miss it when we don't feel it. We feel at peace when we have that flow without really actually knowing, sometimes consciously, why. We aren't opposing or fighting or living in fear when we can be conscious of this flow, and when we can be conscious of the synchronicity that is in us and around us when we are part of this flow. the more we become conscious of it, the more we trust it. And the more that we realize that this life that we've been given is biased in our favor. Life wants us to thrive. Life, everything in life is biased toward life. We don't necessarily understand that because sometimes it doesn't look that way in our humanness. But life is in our favor at all times. We can block it, but it's always there to support us. We know what it feels like when we're in love. You remember that? Anybody here remember when we were in love? Wake up. But remember how that felt when we were in love. We felt like we were connected to all of life. We felt like we were fully alive. Life was amazing in every way. That's what the life we've been given is about. That is what life wants to give us at all times. And the more we can be fully engaged and connected to life, the more we can be aware of what is there for us at all times. So, of course, you know me, I have to go look up what life means in Webster. It's one of my sicknesses, I guess. But the definition of life is energy. It's existence. It's animation. It's vitality and vigor and enthusiasm. That's what life is. We can be in the flow of it, or we can block it. We get to choose. But it's who we were born to be. This vigor and this vitality and this existence and this energy, that's who we were born to be. That's what we are born to live for. And the way that we do that is by allowing ourselves to be in that flow of life itself, in that energy of life itself, and not block it. Just like the dam, the beaver that builds the dam that blocks the water, and the water turns stagnant. We can block our good by saying no, or by being upset. We get to choose that. And so hopefully we can become aware of being in that flow, and flowing as all of life was meant to flow, with lots of enthusiasm and vitality and vigor. And to remember, even in our worst times, to remember this planet supports life. This planet is biased toward life of all living things, including all humans. Sometimes we look at nature, and we are in awe of nature, and we forget we're that too. We're not separate from nature. That is the truth that we don't really know to be true sometimes, because it doesn't always appear. You know, we've got our five senses, and if it doesn't agree with our five senses, it doesn't appear to be the truth. And yet there's a higher truth of us, a spiritual truth of us, that's always in that flow. So when we're in that human appearance, that five sense appearance of what doesn't appear, you know, when we lose a loved one, that doesn't appear to be something that we want to flow through life with. Some of the things that we experience in life are not things we really want to have happen. And so we can forget because of that appearance. We don't like to feel sad. We don't like to have change in our lives. We don't like to be discouraged. And so we have to notice when those things happen and notice our own consciousness. Is our consciousness blocking our good because it appears to not be good at that moment? As human beings, we typically resist change. We don't like it. And yet, it's a natural part of the flow of life. And it's inevitable. So we want life to be good at all times. And how do we embrace the inevitable that doesn't feel or look good? One is just to be noticing when we're fighting it, when are we having that feeling of, I don't want this to happen. It's an okay feeling to have, you just don't want to live there. You don't want to keep that feeling at all times. You need to notice, this is a change in my life. It's not a change I'm fond of right now. It's not a change I want. I have to remind myself, this too shall pass. This circulation will come and it will go. And most of us can think of something right now that happened to us years ago that we thought was dreadful at the time and horrible. And we can look back on it now. And we can see that it did come to pass. And what replaced it was better than what was there before, because life is meant to be good. The life of every human is set in the framework of relationships. We can't go to the grocery store without relating to the person who checks in our groceries. Everything, we have relationships of all kinds, but we are in constant relationship with other human beings. And the question is, how are we going to relate? We get to choose that. There's a story about a lady who was really tired. It was late at night. She'd been working the second shift, and she got on the subway. And as she made her way to the only chair that was vacant, another woman came from the other direction and literally pushed her down and took that chair. And the lady was just furious. How dare she treat her that way? And of course, it wasn't the right way to treat someone. But the lady who had had this happen to her told everybody. She relived it 100 times. She relived it over and over and over again. Told it over and over and over again. It became like the bricks around her neck, and then letting it go. And she had a choice about that. Yes, it was unbelievable. Yes, it was not the way to be treated. She had a choice in that moment to either let it go or let it run her life. And it's kind of like that other story. I know you've all heard the story of the 2 monks. And the 2 monks were walking and they found a woman trying to get across a stream. And she looked like she was drowning. And one of the monks went out to help her. And the other monk was totally distraught because they had taken a vow that they would never touch a woman. And yet this one monk had gone out into the middle of the stream to help this woman across the stream. So he hoisted her up on his shoulders and he got her to the other side of the stream. And he came back and the monks were walking down the path again, and this one monk wouldn't let it go. You just sinned, you touched a woman, I can't believe you did that, and he nagged at him for about 2 miles. And finally the monk said, I just carried her across the stream, you're still carrying her around. And isn't this what we do? Yeah. This is what we do. And we don't have to do that. We can notice and then we can let it go. We get the choice. And it's really important because as humans, we require relationships. And if we get soured on relationships, if we get soured on life, there's nowhere else to go. Because everything we do is in relation to someone else. And so we get to choose how we deal with what life deals us. We get to choose how we deal with these things that are unsavory. The woman was totally wrong to do what she did. She invaded the other one by touching her and knocking her down. Wasn't the right thing to do, but the woman had a choice how long she wanted to hang on that. She hung on it, according to the story, for a very long time. Harry Butterworth says, life flows within us, from within us, into the world. So it's in us, and it flows out of us to others in the world. And so we don't want to be frustrated by this harboring of thoughts, and that creates within us a resistance, a prejudice, an animosity that we carry around. And we'll talk about that next week in regards to our health. But we have to let it go. If we don't let it go, we're living half a life. We're not living that vitality. We're wasting that vital energy on something that we can't. She couldn't go back and change what happened on that subway. All she could do was let it go and change how she held it, how long she held it, and what energy she put into it. You know, there are a lot of people you like to be around. It's because they don't have all of that harbored inside of them. That love in us is in us and flows out. But that same rancor is in us and can flow out. And that's an energy that we pick up. That's an energy other people pick up. It may be very subtle, but we know it. Lao Tzu said that the points in life which we make contact with others in the world are how we embrace life, how we embrace other people. And Lao Tzu, also a philosopher, said something very similar to Plotinus when he said this: whoever flows as life flows has solved the human equation. Isn't that interesting? Whoever flows as life flows has solved the human equation. Plotinus said that he who flows as life flows will need no other power. So let's remember, we're not here as an island into ourselves. Getting along with other people is an integral part of our own enthusiasm and vigor about life. We want to make a decision to keep our love channels open, our love of other human beings, our communication with other human beings, to open ourselves and to give of ourselves. We will meet the unlovable. We will meet the people we are unable to communicate with. But it's what we choose to do with those encounters that determines how our life will flow. See, this is all you have control over. You don't have control over that other person, but you have total control over how you face life, embrace life, fight life, whatever it is you choose. The art of getting along is primarily about us getting in the flow, for us to have the fullness and the richness of life. That doesn't depend on the other person. That depends on us. So when someone cuts us off in traffic, or we have a disagreement with a neighbor or a coworker, when someone else truly behaves badly, as that woman did, it doesn't mean we have to stay in that place of anger. It doesn't mean that that's a consciousness we need to carry around with us. It does mean that we can be conscious of where we are at that moment. Don't make yourself wrong, be conscious of it, and make a choice. In the book of John, chapter 21, verse 22, Jesus said it this way, what is that to you? Follow me. What is that to you? When someone else behaves badly, what is that to you? Follow me. And to follow Jesus meant to follow the teachings of Jesus, to love. Jesus came to this earth to teach us to love. So that was the meaning of that chapter and verse. We're here to love. We're here to learn to love. And that can mean loving ourselves. To love ourselves enough not to allow the bad behavior of someone else to even enter into our energy space. When we follow the teachings of Jesus to love, it's to be in that harmony, in that energy, to have our own thinking be rightly, to take care of our own energetic love and life flow. We can't fix the other person, but we can connect to our own natural flow of love. It's what life gave us. It's that part of us that is that circular motion, that life wants to be biased in our favor of love and joy. And of course, I have to add this: if someone abuses you, love yourself enough to not stay with that. Don't stay with abuse. That's not loving the other person, and it's certainly not loving you. Allow that life and love within you to love and nurture you. The idea that your happiness and peace of mind comes from somewhere out here, how often do we think it's something out here that is giving us peace of mind, or something out here that's disturbing our mind? It's not out there, it's in here. I often think of times that I've done some pre-wedding counselings and listened to the bride and groom, and some people fall in love and decide to marry, but they know that as soon as they get married, they're going to change everything about that person. Everything they don't like about them, as soon as they get married, they're going to change it. That never, ever works. If you can't love the person you are with, don't try to change them. The only thing you can change is you. And to be in this flow of life, we have to change who we are. The same is true if you're working in an office. You can't change your coworkers, but you can choose the attitude that you bring with you as you walk in that door every morning. And you can choose to be full of life and vigor and joy no matter what else is going on around you. You look for security or harmony somewhere outside of you, you're looking in the wrong place. There's a quote that says, "Wherever I am, there let me be the truth of me." Wherever I am, there let me be the truth of me. You be the love, you be the life, you be what was given to you, what was granted to all of us, what each one of us has inside of us to give out into the world. We don't even know what other people are going through. We don't know what their circumstances are. There's story after story of people who we work with, and they're really ordinary people. And then we find out sometime later the terrible circumstances that they're living in. And then we can have some empathy. So just be that channel of love that flows. Tap into that resource, that life is meant to be good resource, that life that is biased toward us being joyful and happy and healed and whole. We can't spend time groaning over what the world lacks. We have to bring it what it needs. And there will be some people that you're drawn to, and there'll be some people that you'll draw away from, or they'll draw away from you. Because we're at a different energy. We talk about this with the quantum physics. When you walk into this room and it's dark, the minute you turn on the lights, the darkness is gone. This is who we are. The minute we bring our joy and our vigor and our love for life into the darkness of someone else, the darkness can't live there. And so we don't know if people are suffering. We don't know about what is going on with them. But we can't forfeit our love of life because of their dysfunctions. We can send them love. We don't have to be a part of their drama, but we can fill a room with our love. And I mention this because right now, I'm hearing an awful lot about people's psychological moods. They're losing loved ones. They're locked up at their home. They don't get to go to the office anymore and interact with other humans. We're meant to interact with other humans. And yet everything's on Zoom now. Everything's two-dimensional. Kids can't go to school anymore. They say that the kids psychologically are really in a mess right now. How long they have been away from having that life interaction, that flow of life that is so much a part of this circulation of life. And we're all having to forfeit that in one way or another. And so we want to be especially cognizant of that when we meet other people who might look a bit cranky or feel a bit cranky, or ourselves. We have to look at how our lives have just turned upside down, and all of that circulation of relationship that we've been so accustomed to all of our lives in the last year or two has just turned upside down. And so we want to be cognizant of that people are suffering, and they may not tell you they are, but we're all trying to adjust to another way of trying to interact and communicate. So we want to be more and more conscious of that flow of love and life that is the truth of who we all are, and allow that to move out. Just be that wellspring yourself. Know that you may be totally aware of this when others are not and cannot be. Don't take anything personally. Remember those words. What is that to you? Follow me. We're all created by a creator that created in love. The words good and God are synonymous. The words love and God are synonymous. That is what created us. That is the essence of who we are. So I'd like to do something with you this morning. We're coming to the place of our meditation, but I'm going to say some words and let these words be yours and repeat them after me, if you will. I am a child of the universe.
I am a child of the universe.
A child of God.
A child of God.
The kingdom in me is the flow of the universe.
The kingdom in me is the flow of the universe.
It flows in and through me and out into the world.
It flows in and through me and out into the world.
This is my inheritance.
This is my inheritance.
I am the living enterprise of the creative process.
I am the living enterprise of the creative process.
I now claim my inheritance
I now claim my
with
inheritance
joy and gratitude.
with joy and gratitude.
So let's take that into a time of meditation, into a time of just reflecting on where we might be more conscious and more aware of what is happening in our own psyche, in our own intelligence, that we can be more aware of who we are as this consistent flow of loving energy. So find a comfortable place in your chair and lay things aside if you like. Let's just begin to take a breath or two and allow my words to be your words this morning. As we say, here I am, a child of this universe. Use me as that instrument of love. Remind me, give me an awareness that this is who I am, and this is who I can show up as in this world. I am an agent of peace. Remind myself daily that I am in the flow of life. I am in the flow of life. I relate easily and lovingly. I relate patiently with understanding of all people. Doesn't matter what any other person does. It's what I am and what I can do that will most certainly enable me to move through life as life flows. Commit to get along easily with other people let him or her go if necessary. No matter the situation or the circumstance, I know that my responsibility is simply to stay in the flow. My responsibility is to keep seeing with eyes of love. To be willing to receive whatever life brings me. To be responsive to whatever that flow of life brings. To be responsive with love and wisdom. And so I choose to be joyous, no matter what the situation may be. I deem it good. I call it good. I will be in that flow of good. And each time I notice that I have that moment of concern, I simply remind myself to let go. To let go and let that vitality and that enthusiasm and that energy that is part of who I am, I just let it flow. In this moment, I am grateful that this is who I am. I'm grateful that this is how we were created. So we say thank you. Thank you for this beautiful power that each of us has within us. And to be reminded to use it as we flow, as life flows. So it is.